everybody, and God bless. So I had this dream a couple of days ago, and what happened in the dream, it was this woman, so she's over here, and then there was this man who was like in the middle, and then there was me, and the man looked at me for like 2 seconds and then started heading straight for her. And so it was a little bit of a hesitation when he just looked at me, but his thought process, I had a knowing like he wanted to go straight for her. And so and she was walking away, so she didn't even look at him. Like, I was looking at him and he looked at me for a second and then kept going. And the other woman, she was just looking straight ahead and just going her way. So like, he was going towards her while she's looking this way. And she was walking towards, like, I don't know if it was like a sunset or sunrise, I don't know which one it was, but she was walking towards that. And because the sun was like at the horizon, it looked like, and so I wasn't able to see the color of her hair because of how blinding the light was. But basically I knew she had long wavy hair, and I had it knowing in the dream. I was like, this is not a good woman. And she was walking away extremely seductively, like, so I walk, when I walk, let's say these are my feet, right? So I walk and I cross my feet just a little bit, right? Just a little bit, just because I walk my head straight and my back is straight, so I walk normally. She was walking like, leg was like boom, boom, like really twisting her legs. I don't even know how to explain, like she was really twisting it. And it's crazy because I saw this video on Instagram and I was like, oh, that's exactly how she was walking. And they were teaching the women how to walk very seductively. Like, it was really, like, they was trying to break a hip type of seductively, seriously. So that's how she was walking away. And I was just standing there and I was just looking at him. And I was thinking to myself, but also I heard like a voice was being brought down to me and was telling me, like, if he's a man of God, he's gonna know, like, you're not gonna need to do anything. Like, he'll turn back around. He'll know. If he's a true man of God, he will turn from her. And so this was at the end of the dream, but I went ahead and I talked to my mom about it, and she was explaining to me how when God puts a virtuous woman in a man's life, that Satan will turn around and put a Jezebel in that woman's life, in that man's life. And so I personally believe that this dream was just showing that I represent virtuous women in this person's life. So that could be like a friend, a sister, a mother, anything like that. So it's showing like, if this person is attracted to Jezebels, then they will eventually, all the virtuous women in our life is eventually going to start turning from them. And so that was being shown, and then it was also just really showing me that I am a virtuous woman. It took me a couple of days to upload this just because of the fact that I really had to go into deep thought about, one, what does that mean I'm a virtuous woman in this person's life? Because I was like, what does that mean? So I needed to seek that, and I do believe it was literally just showing me that I just represent a virtuous woman in this person's life, like their friend as a virtuous woman in their life, and nothing more. And then I was just like, first of all, virtuous woman, like, I've been asking God to show me my heart multiple times, and that was a shocker. I was just like, I did not expect to be told I'm a virtuous woman, because multiple times a lot of people will tell me I need to be quieter, I need to be more meeker, I need to, you know, be careful with how I answer. And this has been happening ever since I really started getting right with God, and for many years. And so I would seek God on it, like, okay, God, you know, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just naturally be quieter? Why can't I just naturally not be so, when somebody asks me a question, why can't I just naturally, you know, answer it in a way of a little pretty lady? And I didn't understand. And about 3 years ago, I asked God about my personality, and he was just like, it's your personality. Because I was like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be as emotional as other women, and not being as emotional with somebody else? I don't believe in, I don't like doing that. If I have to do it to just help them, and if that's what they need, then I will. But I don't like doing that, because I believe, like, if you're crying and I'm crying, how are we going to get past this issue, right? So I didn't understand why I wasn't this dainty, quiet, you know, agree with every, especially man that comes in my life. Like, why can't I just, you know, submit to everybody, that, you know, whatever. And so I was really in deep thought about this. What does it mean to be a virtuous woman? Because I don't submit to men. Okay, I don't do that. I submit to my authority figures, and if I ever get a husband, yes, I'm supposed to submit to him. But if you're just a friend, if you're just a man on the street, like, I'm not gonna sit here and answer you in a different way than I would a woman, because the word of God says to submit to your authority figures. And And when I say authority figures, I mean like your parents. It says, you know, we're supposed to honor our parents and we're supposed to submit to our husbands. So every man on this earth, I was just like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And then on top of that, that was a curse. But then before the curse, Adam and Eve, they were made one. So even then, it's still one person, like one guy, one woman. Like, I don't have to submit to every single man on this planet. So I was just, you know, really seeking God on that and trying to understand what's going on with that. And so this was just showing me, like, yes, the way that I was thinking, like, yeah, you're not supposed to be submitting to every single man on the street. And honestly, if you are a man listening to this, if you are dating someone or you're looking at somebody who is submissive to every single man around them, that's not for you. That woman needs to seek God more, because she should not be submitting to every single man around her. That is not what the word of God says. We're supposed to submit to our husbands. Okay. Anyways, and so I was just like really going over different virtuous women. There are different personalities for different virtuous women. There are women who are more quieter than I am. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as they're not doing it because they think like they've been brainwashed into thinking that's what they're supposed to do, or they've been bullied into being quieter and things like that. As long as they are literally being quieter because this is what they want to do, this is something that them and their husband agreed, like, okay, if you want to be quieter, I'm perfectly fine with it. They're like, this is just who I am, I'm just a quiet person, then that's fine, as long as it's their actual personality. And the reason why this is so important is because let's say you do get married to someone who is like that, who's like very, very quiet, and they think they're supposed to be quiet, but in their mind they're like, I have so much to say, like I have got so much to say, but I'm not going to say anything because, you know, whatever, I just got so much to say. That is dangerous, because eventually that woman could possibly blow up. She could become a totally different person. She can become bitter and angry because she's thinking, you know, all my life, like, you know, I've been married to you for how long, and I've been just quiet this whole entire time. And that's why it's important as women that, and also men as well, if you're dealing with this, we need to seek God and have him help you get to the point where this is your personality. It's not something that you are changing about yourself. So if you genuinely are like, you know, if somebody is, I don't know, doing things that upset you, you need to get to the point where you don't even think to be upset. You don't even think, you know, oh my goodness, I'm starting to get mad, I need to stop getting mad. You need to get to a point where it's like, this doesn't faze me at all, because like I said, you can constantly keep thinking that and you just blow up. So that's just what I want to say about the whole virtuous woman thing. You really need to seek God and get to a point where you're not a different person in your mind than you are on the outside. Okay, a virtuous woman, like I said, it can have different personalities. So like, for instance, me, let's say, okay, this is a perfect example. So let's say I am talking about apples and oranges, and I'm talking about apples and oranges to a man. Okay, and that man replies back and he's also talking about apples and oranges, and it's like, okay, so we are keeping a great conversation going and we're talking on the same level. There are some people who are okay with that, who are okay with just keeping things like, that's it, boom, we talk about the same exact stuff, that's it. Now let's say I'm talking about apples and oranges, and I'm talking to somebody and they are talking about apples, oranges, and then they add in, hey, this also goes with bananas. So they're adding in extra information, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're teaching me. So you know what, apples, oranges, bananas, hey, why don't we go ahead and talk about grapes as well? You know, let's add on to it. And they're okay with me adding on, and I'm okay with them adding on. We're growing together, and that's where I am. Like, that's what I like. I like growing with somebody, boom, 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 back and forth. So you've got the first example was standstill. Second example was we're growing together. And then another example is, so let's say I'm talking about apples and oranges, and I'm talking to somebody and they just start talking about bananas. I understand that apples and oranges are fruit and bananas are fruit, but you haven't even addressed what I just said. So technically I feel like I'm not being listened to, and I feel like, you know, you just want to be in charge of this conversation. You want to take over. So now it's me here, you're there. And there are some women who are okay with being in a relationship like that. I am not. And if you genuinely are okay with that, because like I've heard different women say, like, when I'm out with my husband, I don't even think, you know, I just let him take control, like 100%. Like he tell me to jump, I'm jumping. I ain't even asking why. Like, personally, I feel like if I were with someone and they tell me to jump, I would like to know why. Just to know why, just because I'm curious. I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm not trying to say you're wrong, don't tell me to jump. I would just, you know, like to know why. So it's like, you know, you can be like, oh, jump, something's coming, jump. Okay, I'm gonna jump. Or, you know, and then it depends on if I like really trust that person and they're just like jump, and I was like, okay, I can trust you, I'm gonna jump. But then it's like, after I jump, can you still explain to me why I had to jump? And it's just the fact that I like receiving information. It has nothing to do with me trying to challenge the person, trying to change who they are, trying to manipulate them into thinking my way. I literally just have a question and I just want to know. And there are some couples, regardless if it's man or female, that are not okay with that. You know, as a woman, if I ask, okay, why'd you tell me to jump? I jump, but why'd you tell me to jump? They all of a sudden think I'm emotional or offended or, you know, all this stuff. And it's just because they are the type of man that does not want to be questioned at all. And there are some relationships that are okay with that. Like, that's okay with you and your wife. If you guys equally made that decision that that is okay, she's fine, she doesn't feel like she's being burdened in this relationship, okay, fine. You know, you guys are equal, it's all right, because it's an equal decision. I'm not okay with that. All right, so those are some examples. And then there's another example when it comes to the woman's side. So let's say I'm talking about apples and oranges, and then the husband is talking about apples, oranges, and he brings in bananas. And then I reply back, only talking about apples and oranges. And the reason why, what that is me putting myself above him. Like, no, I'm talking about apples and oranges. I do not want to talk about whatever else you just added on, whatever. I want to be in charge. I do not like that either. Okay. And I've been told that, you know, some people think that I'm that way, and I'm not. And at the end of the day, it's like, I really don't feel like explaining myself to you. Obviously, you're not the person that God sent for me. If I have to sit here and explain to you every single time we talk that I genuinely just want a, you know, a smart conversation. Like, I just want to learn, and I would also like to teach you things that I've learned. So that right there, with the woman being above the man, I don't believe in that at all. I just don't see that being okay with God at all. And even with like the man being above the woman and the other thing, I personally am not okay with that. But the woman being above the man, I'm 100% like, I don't think that's okay at all. All right, so I wanted to add this in real quick. I forgot. So I wanted to say this. When I say being equal, I don't mean like equal as in what you're doing, like when it comes to like fleshly stuff. So like, I understand like some couples are like, okay, the man only does men things. So that's like mowing the lawn. You know, if he wants to go to work and like she stays home, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about equal as in being able to make equal decisions. Like, this is a decision we made, like, and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. That's what I'm talking about. Because I know me personally, I have mowed the lawn multiple times. I have shoveled snow, leaves, taken out the trash, done all of that. And I'm telling you right now, if I get married to someone that's like, oh yeah, it's fine, I'll take care of it, go ahead. Like, I'm done. Okay. So that doesn't mean that we're not equal, because we made that decision together. So that's what I'm talking about, is making those decisions together and being able to talk with one another. And especially things of God, like being able to understand. You may not understand the same exact stuff, and that's why it's okay to like grow together, because he's teaching you, you're teaching him. So that's pretty much what I'm talking about being equal. So those are some examples for like different, you know, scenarios of a virtuous woman and the different personalities. I hope that makes sense. But basically, it just comes down to understanding that regardless, as a woman, you should not be submitting to every single man. Okay. And you could ask yourself, well, how is this person that I'm interested in going to know I would be a submissive wife? And also for the husband, like, how would you know if the woman that you're looking into, how do you know she's going to submit to you? And the way you would know that if she's going to properly submit is if she is submitting to the people that God put in her life that she needs to submit to. So an authority figure in this woman's life, is she submitting to them? And if not, then she's not going to submit to you. And same thing with men as well. The Bible also says that husbands are to submit themselves to their wives. So how would you know? Well, look and see how he treats his mother. And if he doesn't have a mother in his life, then just look and see how he treats any authority figure in his life. Is he submitting to them? Any other, you know, authority figure that's mainly a female, really, like when it comes to guys, you really want to see how do they treat the authority figures in our life that are females. Because a man can really submit to another man. There's no issue there. But can that man respect and submit to an authority figure that's a female. And that right there is something that you really need to look into, and just make sure that, you know, he's not going to treat you like the scum of the earth, you know. And this is something that's very important that we need to understand as Christians, that we need to stop looking like the world, how the world treats their women, okay? And I understand, you know, like there's been women's rights and women have all this, but we really don't. We're still oppressed and we're still put down in the world. Like, you know, you go talk to an atheist and they'll talk to you like you're stupid. Muslims, they treat their women super bad. It's really awful, and we have to recognize that regardless, you know, even though it was a curse that women are supposed to submit to their husbands, and you have to understand that Jesus died on the cross for our sins. So if we say that it's a curse for women to be beneath men, that curse is done away with, because we follow Jesus. And I've heard people say, well, not all the curses were done away with, because, you know, like period pain or giving birth and stuff like that is painful. And I've talked about this before, how Jesus, when he took that womb in his stomach, that was to do away with that curse and our cramps and things like that. So if you really believe and really call on Jesus and call on the blood of Jesus and really quote scriptures over your cramps and things like that, it will lessen. And in some instances, it could completely go away. So I do want to say that, like, we have to understand that if we say that Jesus dying on the cross did away with all of the curses that were over us and all of the bad stuff that was put over us, then we have to believe in all of it. You can't say that once, you know, a man becomes saved, they're completely free, they can do whatever they want. But a woman, she becomes free, she still needs to be quiet, you know, ran over, treated this way, treated that way. You need to use common sense when you read the word of God. You can't just, you know, okay, let me just read Genesis, okay, I'm gonna just whatever. You literally need to use common sense, and common sense is wisdom. And in order to get wisdom, you need to fear the Lord, okay? So I want to talk about that, about virtuous women. Now let me go into the man being distracted. So if you guys know that I came out with a video called Reprobate, and I believe that I talk about how I was distracted by a man that I thought was the one for me, and I believe that God left that person in my life to learn what a reprobate was. And so technically I went through this. And so in the dream that I just had, I said in the dream, and then also I heard in the dream, I believed in the dream, I was thinking this in the dream, and I heard in the dream that if he is a true man of God, he will turn and get right with God. And this saying was actually told to me as well. If I am a true woman of God, I will, you know, I will understand that this person that I was allowing in my life was a reprobate, that I need to turn from them. And so when me and this person, I believe was a reprobate, when we stopped talking, I was really hurt and upset. And the reason why I was hurt, upset, it wasn't because me and this person stopped talking. It wasn't necessarily because they wasted my time. It was because of the fact that I was willing to compromise. I was willing to stop arguing with him. I was willing to just let everything go. He even told me he didn't believe in women ministering, things like that. I was like, I mean, as long as you allow me to keep my video and allow me to keep putting out my dreams and stuff like that, that's fine. And he was like, yeah, your dreams and stuff. But he, in between the lines, was saying, like, if we got married, then he would definitely, you know, stop me from doing teaching videos and things like that, and most likely just have me say the dream, and then, you know, he would probably say what it means. But obviously, if God wanted it that way, then you would get the dream, not me. Anyways, so different things. I was willing to literally compromise to the fact that it would have 100% stopped my growth in God. Like 100% stopped my growth in God. And so when I let go of him, I was like, all right, I am not going to compromise on that again. And I was focused on the one thing of not allowing women to minister. So I said, the next time I talk to someone, as soon as they mention something like that, I'm done. And then somebody else came in my life, and then they said something, and I was willing to compromise about that other thing. And I was just like, no, Kiana, like, you can't compromise. So I was like, all right, next time somebody comes in my life, the women's thing, and then whatever that person came in my life saying, I'm not going to compromise. And then somebody else came in my life, and I think that was the one with the they didn't believe in the power in the name Jesus, and I wasn't willing to compromise. Like, I was like, I'm definitely not going to marry this person, but I was just like, I would still want to be friends with them and try and like talk them through it. And that's when I got a dream saying, like, God was upset with me with that. He was like, no, like, he said there's no power in the name of Jesus. If he was anybody else, you would block him. Like, he needs to go. Recently, I was talking to a friend of mine about these things, and the issue that I had, you know, with, I've had tons of dreams and visions of my potential soulmate, and I was ignoring something that I was being shown about my potential soulmate, and I kept ignoring it because I was like, I can't believe that someone like me would receive somebody like that. Like, I can't believe it. And I had to seek that. I had to see, like, why was I willing to compromise? What was going on in my life? Why was I willing to compromise so many times? And then also, why is it when I get dreams and visions of my soulmate, I'm like, okay, I believe in everything except for that. I'm like, I'm just gonna make myself forget that one thing about these dreams and visions. I can't stick on it. My friend and I, we really talked it through, and this friend was able, like, help me realize that I had basically had this trauma of never being pursued after, never actually dating someone that I actually had feelings for, like 100%, or somebody that I actually was attracted to, because I never felt worthy. I felt upset with myself. So I had built this bitterness towards myself, and just felt like I was always upset with myself, like I would never be accepted by a strong man of God, like somebody on my level, somebody that actually is on my level and loves me. Like, it's like, okay, somebody on my level is okay, but on my level and loves me, absolutely not. And so I had to deal with that. I had to deal with the reason why, what in me allowed me to open up to allow this person in my life to cause these issues. And it took me a while, because I was just like, oh, you know, I'm not traumatized, I'm fine, whatever. But I had to identify that and get rid of it. I had to get rid of it. And so when my friend and I, we talked about that, and they really helped me through that trauma, and really helped me understand that was the issue. And it was really hard. It actually took, like, we had talked the first day, and I was like, this hasn't helped me at all. And then the next day I really thought about it on my own, about the things that they had said, and I think I broke down crying, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't believe I'm worthy. So that's another thing. When I was shown, like, I'm a virtuous woman, what? Because I didn't go through this until after I got this dream. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I've got this, like, this issue of not feeling wanted. And so that allowed me to be attracted or make excuses for, maybe this person's my soulmate. Maybe I can, compromise on some things about myself that I'm very, like, stubborn about with this person, because, maybe this. And it's like, deep down inside, I knew that person didn't even want to be with me. And that's the thing, like, that was my issue, constantly compromising for guys that didn't even want me in the first place, or they did want me, but they wanted me to change. And that was my issue. And now that I'm past that, I feel more freer, and I feel more equipped to not fall for people that I know that are not right for me. And so with this person who or I don't want to just focus on this person, I want to focus on just anybody in general. If you have recently, dealt with a Jezebel or a change woman, or anybody, like I said, I was dealing with somebody with a reprobate spirit. If you have allowed someone to come into your life, regardless if that's a friend or more than a friend, whatever, allow someone to come into your life to disrupt your growth with God. They either, how do I say this? Because even with the reprobate guy, I thought I was still growing with God. I was reading the Bible more, I was posting more, everything like that. But deep down inside, I felt drained. And every single time we talked, we argued, every single time, because I was still adamant about talking about things of God. And every single time I talk about something about God, he would either change the subject or he would argue with me, and I would notice he wasn't even listening to me. And so just somebody like that, like, you should not be constantly arguing with somebody that you believe is going to be your potential, like, soulmate or mate, or somebody that should be in your life like that. You should not be. This is not something that's equal and easy. That's what the world says. The world says, oh, it's totally normal to, like, be in a relationship arguing, like, but God said we're supposed to be equal. So if you truly wait on God and have him fix you and fix whoever you're supposed to be with, I personally believe that the longer you wait, the less likely you will have these, man, I regret marrying you type of situations. Now that's just with the whole, like, marriage thing. But even with friends and things like that, I don't believe you should be, if God put this person in your life, it shouldn't get to a point where it's like every single time we argue, I'm like second guessing having you in my life. I feel drained. You were just awful, and things like that. Now, granted, you can you might have like an argument here or there with somebody because they're still growing or you're still growing, and you're still able to come back together and actually talk it out and realize that somebody made a mistake and you're actually going to change. That's different. But I'm talking about those people who like get into arguments, they come back together as if the argument didn't happen. Nobody deals with the argument. We're just like, whatever. Or you're just like, oh yeah, we'll deal with it by just apologizing, but nobody's actually changing. I don't think that's right with God. So the thing is, if that is happening to you, you are allowing that person to stay in your life, or even if you let go of that person, now you're all of a sudden, with somebody else that's the exact same. It's the same spirit. It's the spirit. We need to understand everything is spirit. It is the spirit, not the flesh. Okay? So I don't care if they look like two completely different people. I don't care if it's two completely different genders. It's the same spirit. So you need to figure out what in you is attracting this spirit. What is going on? What is causing that trauma? So like I said, for me, my trauma was the fact that I never dated someone that I actually wanted to be with. Like, I never was in a relationship with somebody that I didn't have to like talk my way into being with them. And then while I was with them, I didn't have to continue talking myself to stay in the relationship. And so that, like, I've never been in love. I've never been loved. Those things caused a trauma in my life, and I didn't even know it. Like, I was fine. I was chill. I wasn't bitter towards men. I wasn't upset towards myself. I was all right. But the reason why it caused a trauma was because the way I can tell it caused a trauma was because I was still allowing those issues in my life. And then when we would stop talking, or they would say something, and then I would just remember, like, oh my goodness, somebody else I was with said the same thing, or oh my goodness, here it is, it's about to end again. And I just always felt like it was my fault. Always. Every single time we break up, it was my fault. Or anytime someone I was with would just walk up my life, it was my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. So I developed this trauma into feeling like I'm always wrong. There's something wrong with me. There's something that needs to be fixed. There's something wrong. A lot of times I'll ask my friends things like, do you have any like deep down issues with me? Or would you see yourself with me, or anything like that? And it was mainly just for myself, because I was dealing with that trauma, so I needed that reassurance. Like, okay, no, these people are my friends because they're actually my friend. And because I was dealing with traumas towards myself. And so, like, I didn't have any issues with men or anything like that. It was just literally myself, and it just really hurt. And that's why I just thank God all the time for this friend that I have that has really helped me through so many traumas and issues, and really helped me talk through things, because they just stayed on me. They were like, like, they asked me the same question like 3-4 times. Like, no, if there was like 5 different guys in front of you and all this stuff, like, this person was asking me the same thing over and over and over. And even though I had the same answer, they were like, no, I need you to see your answer, like, it's practically wrong. Like, you shouldn't be answering that way. And they just kept at me. And that was amazing, because I didn't even know I had a trauma. I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, what the heck? And so it just really helped. So I really hope this makes sense. I've talked about traumas multiple times, how we really need to get past them, and we really need to see and ask God. It's like, ask God to show you your heart, because your heart is where you are then and there. But also ask him to show you, God, is there anything in me that has been traumatized? Anything in me that has been hurt? And it's just, am I dealing with anything like that I need to get past? So there's different ways to tell if you have a trauma with something. The main thing is how you react. So let's say somebody says something to you. Like I said, for me, I think I've talked about before how I had an issue. Okay, I've never talked about this, but I had an issue when people would like accuse me of stuff. And it became a trauma where anytime somebody would accuse me of stuff, I would cry so hard and I would defend myself like crazy. I was like, you need to understand that it's not me. And I had this really huge issue. And so like I thought, that was normal, because I was like, somebody's accusing me, I have to defend myself, I have to cry about it, whatever, it's normal. But then I started noticing anytime I thought somebody was accusing me of something, and then sometimes I would do something and I'd be like, okay, I can't do this because they're going to think this about me, they're going to accuse me of this, they're going to accuse me of that. That was a trauma. And so it wasn't just a trauma, but it was also a spirit of a fool. And I had to get deliverance from that spirit of the fool. And then I was able to actually deal with the trauma of being accused of things. And then I realized, like, what really helped me was just knowing how Jesus reacted. And I was like, okay, that's how Jesus reacted, whatever. And then also, you know, being shown that I'm a virtuous woman, this has really helped me. It's told me, like, I know who I am in God. And that's how I knew I was past the trauma. The next time somebody had accused me of something, I was like, I'm honestly not really hurt. I'm not as upset as I normally get. And instantly I was like, I know who I am in God. And that's all that matters. And the old me would be like, no. I need to defend myself. I need to, you know, explain myself and all this stuff. And that is sort of a sign of a trauma. So I hope that makes sense. But those are different things you need to see. And then, like I said, another sign of a trauma was when I kept on allowing myself to settle for guys I shouldn't have been with. Or like if you have friends and you keep finding yourself being friends with people who are like, you know, just running you to the ground. You're always the lowest. You're always beneath. Why is that an issue? Why can you not speak up? What in you is not allowing you to speak up and speak your mind and say what you want to say? So you need to seek God on that and say, like, God, is this a trauma that's causing me not to, like, be honest and upfront with these people? Or is it literally just, I just don't feel like it. Like, I just want to be meek, like, whatever. So I really point that out, because you don't, like, you know how the word of God says, don't judge by appearance, but use righteous judgment. So like I said, people can do these things, but just make sure you're being led by your spirit before you identify and say, okay, you're dealing with a trauma, or before you, or yourself, before you just assume you've been traumatized. Because like I said, I was constantly asking God, like, God, I don't understand, like, I'm not like this emotional creature like like all these other women. And what would have happened if I would have said, oh, that's a trauma? I would have went on with the rest of my life assuming there's something wrong with me, and God's just like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. So that's why it's very important that you seek God on these things, and really seek God on, am I dealing with the trauma? Just know that anytime, especially with like deliverance, if you have a spirit in yourself, or you're dealing with a spirit with somebody else, that is a big deal. It's not something that's like overnight, okay, God, like, I'm fine, whatever. Like, you really need to make sure you cross all the T's, dot all the I's. All right, I've repented. I have, you know, I need to seek and find out what in me is allowing this to happen, and then I need to seek and find out how to get rid of whatever allowed that to happen. And then you need to be ready, because a lot of times in my personal experience, I have been sent the same thing again as a test to see, am I healed from whatever allowed this to happen in the first place? So I hope that will make sense. I hope you guys have a great Sabbath, and God bless you.